Hello everyone, this is just a fun video. I was going to go through my favorite albums that I currently own. There's still a few I'm always on the lookout to grab. So without further ado, probably the best David Bowie album of all time. This is a copy that's been remastered, David Bowie's Low from the late 70s that he did with Brian Eno, Iggy Pop as well. Believe it or not, the most expensive record I've got have an original pressing of it as well. They usually go for 100, 150 bucks. So easily favorite David Bowie album. You know, related to Devo, love Devo. I'll do a video on all the Devo records. But because I have an affinity for this one because everybody else craps on it. Devo's Shout. It was their 1984 release with their cover of Jimi Hendrix's Are You Experienced, Here to Go, Shout. The Satisfied Mind stands out. The Fourth Dimension, Jurisdiction of Love, Please, Please, Please. This, I love the particular electronic sound. The last Warner Brothers record they did before they came back and did Something for Everybody, my personal favorite. Now, I don't have Remain in Light. That is my particular favorite of all the Talking Heads. But if you don't have Remain in Light, you cannot go wrong with their live Stop Making Sense, which has just a great packaging with images of the Tom Tom Club. And then, of course, the Talking Heads band members, Jerry Harrison, Tina Weymouth, Chris Frantz, and David Byrne with his big suit. Walter, then Wendy Carlos, who later did all the, like Clockwork Orange, The Shining soundtracks for Stanley Kubrick, did this early Moog, switched on Bach. Bach is my particular favorite of the big guys, as much as I like Mozart and Beethoven. I think Bach's frilliness and organ music is what stands out for me the most. I love Sinfonia to Cantata number 29 in particular, the opening track. But some of the other ones are really cool too, like the Brandenburg, of course, is all in here. But I love second movement, which is really bizarre. You have Prelude to Fugue, Jesu, or Jesus, Joy of Man's Desiring, and then several invention pieces. I just love that old Moog, that, what would you call it, like that analog Moog synth sound. You cannot go wrong with a copy of this, and you can usually find this for like nothing at a lot of used, record stores. I'm trying to find another Green World, but I would actually say I own my favorite. This is an original pressing of Brian Eno's Before and After Science. I always thought he kind of looked like Gary Newman right there, but you don't see the receding hairline. Interesting art on the back. This release is one of those albums of his kind of after he's not working, maybe a little bit with Fripp, I'm not sure about on this one, but he's kind of past Roxy Music, and it's before he hits his ambient. I'd love to get the Apollo sound atmospheres. But this one in particular, it's usually like half, like Another Green World, it's half a album of singing and then half an album, but it's kind of interspersed. This one has more singing. I actually enjoy his singing as much as I like his ambient. So Father of Ambient, really, really great, really interesting, introverted album. Now, you always have people that are more, seems like Team Phil Collins or Team Peter Gabriel when it comes to Genesis. Team Peter Gabriel, all the way. I particularly, and I love Steve Hackett too, who also left when Peter Gabriel did, or shortly thereafter. Genesis, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. A very strange visual album with a story. You can actually see here, there's the writing, and it's a double disc, very weird experimental performance art kind of stuff. Not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but I just love moments of this, and it's got to be listened to all the way through. And then Peter Gabriel's solo albums, it's Hard Security, I would say, is probably his best. I mean, some people might say I.O., the most recent one. Us and Up are both fantastic as well, and So, of course, was his most famous. But then, and this is an original pressing, so it's no longer called Melt. It's not called Melt yet. It's Peter Gabriel number 3. So this would be his, which one? 1980 release with like Games Without Frontiers, Biko, No Self Control, Intruder, I Don't Remember, Family Snapshot, and Through the Wire. I really like Not One of Us. Lead a Normal Life is great. This album, just every single piece on it is fantastic. This one, and I've always loved the album art too. My wife and I really love Iron and Wine. Well, we do love Mumford and Sons too, but this one I actually like them better. Iron and Wine's Ghost on Ghost, which kind of has a slightly inappropriate looking cover, perhaps. But this one, to me, just stands out with, like, the brass and the weird, like, mixture of genres, the crossover kind of stuff between some, like, jazz and like, that very grassrootsy, folksy kind of thing. Caught in the Briars, but I love Low Light Buddy of Mine. Fantastic track. My favorite, though, Grace for Saints and Ramblers. That's my favorite song of theirs of all time, and that's why this one stands out to me the most. Now, with Gary Numan, I'm still trying to find... I love his jazzy trilogy. Warriors is my least favorite. Dance is alright. I love I Assassin, and I don't have a copy of that. For now, I found a promotional copy, not for sale, but it was for resale. This would actually be Tubeway Army replicas. I love the old stuff. Not saying that the new stuff's bad, but it's a little bit more overtly satanic, and I don't really like that. I love the analog synths in replicas. Of course, the Pleasure Principle with Cars is what most people know, but I would also highly recommend Telekin. But replicas, I mean, it has, Me I Disconnect From You, Our Friends Electric. I love the Mockmen. Down in the Park is probably the most famous track besides Our Friends Electric. Replicas is a great song. It Must Have Been Years, When Machines Rock, I Nearly Married a Human. These are all fantastic tracks. If you're interested in a bizarre concept album, which generally I think is what I gravitate to, these art prog rocks from the late 70s, early 80s, you cannot go wrong. If you're interested in, Cars, but you want to get into Gary Numan more, I would start here. Now, Bjork's probably, I don't know, you could argue about what her greatest album is. Vespertine might be the most, because of the microbeats, it might be the most important album, but Homogenic, Poster, great. I particularly really like her debut album after she left, the Sugar Cubes. This album, it just has a nice getting kind of coming of age, it's an introverted, intuitive, what would you call it, like if you're into Myers-Briggs, Apollonian, like the intuitive feeler types. It's just got a great sense of self-discovery about it. Human Behavior, Venus is a Boy, There's More to Life Than This. A lot of people don't know that track. Big Time Sensuality was the first song I ever heard of hers, although it was the Fluke mini remix or whatever that's called. One Day's great. Aeroplane, Come to Me, Violently Happy, the Anchor song. I wish she had put Atlantic on this, which just became like a Icelandic, I think, recording, and then you can see it in the live documentary performance of Debut. But fantastic album, really, really great. Kind of going back to Brian Eno and David Byrne from Talking Heads. I need to get me a copy of Everything That Happens Will Happen Today. That is one of my absolute favorite albums, but I love the experimentation in the first album of sampling, so it's artistically important. My Life in the Bush of Ghosts. This is the original cover. It has since been redone with like vertical stripes. This one I've always thought is more interesting, maybe not as elegant, but more interesting. And it just has some really weird and awesome, like strange pieces on it. It looks like Chris Frantz, the drummer from Talking Heads, also contributed, but that would be the only other member. A lot of this music ended up on the Wall Street soundtrack, and funny enough, a lot from Everything That Happens Will Happen Today. Their first collaboration since this one ended up on the sequel. Was it Money Never Sleeps or whatever, the Wall Street 2. But this one is a really interesting album, but it's more abstract. Big Kraftwerk fanboy here. So I really, really like all of Kraftwerk's albums. So it's, what, 21 years old now? My gosh. Kraftwerk's Tour de France soundtracks, since then Florian Schneider has passed away. But it's a beautiful construction of, I mean, the slip art is fantastic in here. It's got an entire book with images and stuff in it, kind of commemorating, their love for biking and, well, Ralph Huiter, I forget how you say his name, love for biking, but the Tour de France, very European, which those are all great. I love Vitamin, Aerodynamic. It is a really great single. It grows on you over time. Titanium connects to that. Electrocardiogram. And La Forme is great. La Forme you can only get on the album. The rest you can get on Minimum Maximum live. They're 2-disc live from that same year, from this tour. Fantastic band. Probably Trans-Europe Express would be my favorite outside of this one, but this one might kind of stand just a little. I used to work out to that one all the time. Beatles are fine, but I really like I found an original copy of McCartney 2, Paul McCartney's second solo album, which it has that sound, when Devo and Talking Heads and Gary Newman were all coming about, and it just has that really weird late 70s, early 80s sound, and I just like that. Coming Up is fantastic. Temporary Secretary, Waterfalls, Nobody Knows is a lot of fun. Frozen Jap, probably not the most politically correct name, but I just love that. Bogey Music is a little ridiculous. Dark Room, One of These Days. It's just like, I like almost all the tracks on this album. If you want Paul McCartney being really experimental, self-funded, a little bit more weird, I'd recommend McCartney 2. So my first love of music was Weird Al, weirdly enough. So like every release is fun, right? Of his 90s stuff, which I grew up with, Running with Scissors would be my favorite, but I think if I had to pick one from the heyday, it would be Dare to Be Stupid, the title track being the original song. That sounds like a Devo song in the video, definitely proves that. But it's for me, it's not really, like a Surgeon, like the Madonna parody, Girls Just Want to Have Lunch, the Cyndi Lauper parody. I do like the Huey Lewis parody, I Want a New Duck. But actually, I think for me, the original songs on this are what I like the best. So you have like One More Minute, which is like his Elvis kind of, homage. And then This Is the Life, Cable TV, Hooked on Polkas is actually a good one. This one's just a lot of fun. I wish it wasn't damaged. It's heavily scratched, but I got it next to nothing. So a lot of fun for something kind of weird. And also in the novelty group, I love like Tacos After 8, but I really, and like Adamant's great, but I really like Thomas Dolby, which is actually Thomas Morgan. He's best known for She Blinded Me with Science. This album is a great novelty album, and I'm glad I found a copy of it. $4 at Queen City Collectibles, which no longer unfortunately exists here in Sedalia. But it has the remixed version, which is actually more guitar heavy. It's not remixed. It's kind of weird. It's like a re-recording of Radio Silence. I mean, Airwaves Flying North is one of my absolute favorites. It has Europa and the Pirate Twins, Wind Power, Commercial Breakup, One of Our Submarines, and Cloudburst on Shingle Street. All great tracks. I like every single track on this album. I'm going to show maybe a couple more. I was debating, I have some Beatles, I have Rolling Stones, a little bit of Johnny Cash, Elvis, so on. But I really, of Pink Floyd, if I had the wall, I would show that one. Roger Waters and I share a similar introverted, intuitive, like psychological functions affinity. But I would probably pick Wish You Were Here, which has like Shine On You Crazy Diamond. I love the artwork, of course. All their albums have great art, and all their albums are worth listening to. But like Have a Cigar is great, and a lot of people don't know that one. It's just an album song. But Welcome to the Machine, I would say, is my favorite from this particular album. So I would recommend, if you're into, again, like that art rock, especially that 70s and 80s kind of art rock, this would be a good direction to go. I love, and I don't know where my copy is, I love David Byrne's collaboration with St. Vincent. But I think as much as I like, and I have Actor, I don't have some of the more recent ones I've not been quite as crazy over. But I did see this tour, and I saw the David Byrne Love This Giant tour. This St. Vincent record, I like almost every single track on it. Very artistically oriented, intellectual, very progressive, which I'm not as progressive, but maybe I am in musical aesthetics. Rattlesnake is great. Birth in Reverse, which I'm not sure I like what that's about. Then you have, gosh, I can't even remember. It's been a little bit. Digital Witness was the big single from that. I Prefer Your Love has like a very much a Devo kind of sound to it. Regret is great. Psychopath is fun. My next favorite track would be Every Tear Disappears. And Severed Cross Fingers are great. Other albums I wish I could show would be like, if I would like to get a few Radiohead. I like King of Limbs in particular. I'd like, what is it? Is it Rubicon? No, it's Tanagram by Tangerine Dream. One of my absolute favorite records. I love a lot of soundtracks, so I might do a video on Devo, and I might do a video on soundtracks as well. But yeah, thank you for looking at some of my favorites in my collection. But yeah, just start, if you're interested and you don't know where to go, just start collecting a few, right? You want to keep them vertical, kind of like how I have them down here. I'll be putting the ones that I just showed you back in here. Singles are usually, weirdly, sometimes more valuable depending on what the single is. If you're looking for Beatles, Beach Boy, Elvis, a lot of times that stuff is more highly sought after. Or maybe it's just something that's really bizarre and rare. Well, then that's probably going to cost you an arm and a leg too. I'd love to get like the Shining, soundtrack, but I've got a few other Kubrick soundtracks, but the Shining is very difficult to nab a copy of. Just like you're probably spending as much, if not more, than like David Bowie's Low, and that whole David Bowie trilogy is great too, by the way. Lodger and Heroes. So